This is our cool disruptor segment. Coming on today is Ruth Papazian, and she's challenging, of all people, Che Guevara's favorite candidate of all time, AOC, in New York. By the way, Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York, who didn't do bad on Wednesday night, tried to break out a little bit, trying to be the go to the left of everybody, goes to the Miami airport, does a rally, and louds and invokes the name of Che Guevara, Fidel Castro's main man. This is what you got going on in the Democratic Party. They love Che Guevara. They love Fidel Castro. They love Maduro in Venezuela. They love President Z. They love all the communists. It's an amazing 2 days I've spent down here with these people. By the way, Eric Swalwell, he's in Congress, obscure congressman from nowhere in California, passed no legislation. Nobody's heard of him. He thinks he's the transformational leader. He's going to take your guns away. He says, elect me president, and I'm going to take all your assault weapons away, give you a check for it. If you don't want to give them up voluntarily, well, then we're going to take them by force. This is what the Democratic Party stands for. Then you got Christine Gillibrand defending on Fox News in the spin room yesterday, defending late third-term abortions up until the baby is coming out of the birth canal. And I guess, what was that? What are they calling this now? Saxman, they're calling it, what is it? Reproductive justice. That's unbelievable. And then you got Pete Buttigieg from South Bend. He's got his own problems there with police issues. He says that it's not moral, the fact that we're separating children from their mothers and fathers coming over the border illegally. It's not moral. We should be ashamed of ourselves. Yet he's for killing babies when they're coming out of the birth canal because somebody decides, that's not really what I want. I guess that's moral. I mean, the hypocrisy of these people is beyond the pale. Joining us now on the Great Disruptor segment of the John Fredericks Show live in Miami, Ruth Papazian. She's running Bronx 14, New York, against AOC. Hey, Ruth, great to have you.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm having fun in Miami. Got my 15-year-old here with me. He's my interpreter. He speaks fluent Spanish, so that way we can get away around Miami. Listen, Ruth, AOC. I mean, look, this is a Democratic district, right? I mean, how are you going to beat AOC? She got what, 20 million Twitter followers, and she's a social media star. She went on Colbert the other day, and people were chanting her name, AOC, AOC, AOC. She's a rock star. How are you going to beat her?
Okay. On paper, Democrats enjoy a significant numerical advantage over Republicans in my congressional district. It's plus 29. But half of the Democrats typically stay home on Election Day because they don't like the candidates that either party has put up. So right off the bat, the advantage is cut by 50%. Now, voters in my district are politically moderate, and there are more swing voters here than Democrats like to admit. In fact, virtually all of the precincts that President Trump won in the Bronx and Queens came from my district. So there is an ideological disconnect between Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and moderate voters of both parties in the district who feel they no longer have a voice in Congress. Joe Crowley was on Neil Cavuto recently on Fox, and he explained that this is not a socialist district and that he thinks she's vulnerable. So Joe Crowley himself answers the questions of whether I can win, AOC is vulnerable, and why I will win, CD14 is not socialist. This race is winnable. Two recent polls suggest that AOC is deeply unpopular in the district. There was a door-to-door poll from Stop the AOC PAC found that 51% of registered voters in the district have an unfavorable opinion of her versus 21% who have a favorable opinion, and that 33% are ready to vote against her. Only 13% would vote for her. So these results were also reinforced by a nationwide Quinnipiac poll that found that 36% of Americans have an unfavorable opinion of her, and only 23% have a favorable opinion. So this race is winnable.
I like your optimism, Ruth. And it's certainly going to be fun, the fact that you're in there campaigning against AOC and the social media darling that's been created by her in the media. But, I mean, she's not going to debate you, right? So basically, how do you get traction here? She's going to make believe you don't exist as she goes around the country. I mean, she's a speaking darling. Everybody wants her to speak. So you're running against this iconic figure. Now, on one hand, that's tough. On the other hand, that could be a lot of fun, right?
I agree that she has run away from debates. Joe Crowley didn't debate her for reasons that are known only to him. And then she excoriated him for that. And then when it was her turn to debate her Republican opponent, she ran off to do the Jimmy Kimmel show instead. So basically, you have to walk the district and talk to the people to know what's on their mind. And I go around the district, both parts, Queens and the Bronx, and I tell people that I'm running against AOC. I always get the same response. Very enthusiastic, encouraging, telling me to go for it, telling me why they don't like her. And then I pause a beat and I tell them I'm running as a Republican. So far, nobody has given me grief over it. And in fact, just the other day, I was having this conversation with an African-American neighbor who lives right down the block. And she leaned in close and she said to me, look, I don't want any trouble with anybody, but I support President Trump, and I pray for him every night, and I'm going to vote for him, and I'm going to vote for you. And I get this all the time. There is a groundswell of support for President Trump that's developing, especially in the African-American community and in some immigrant communities, immigrants from Africa, from the Middle East. So this is a very diverse borough, and even though it's Latino majority, that's not the whole story of who lives in this district. I'm a very multicultural family. I'm not the typical Republican that usually runs in this district. I was the first member of my family born in the U.S. I didn't know English when I entered public school in the Bronx. My parents are legal immigrants from Egypt, and in my home, we speak Armenian, Arabic, Turkish, French, and English. Mm-hmm. So I feel that the multicultural background that I bring, being a lifelong Bronxite and coming from the same workaday background as the people that I want to represent, I feel that I am the future of what diversity will look like in this borough.
You know, Ruth, I love your attitude, and I got to tell you something. The fact that you're a Republican and you had an R by your name is definitely going to hurt you. But when you're knocking on doors, I love the fact that you're going out and going directly to the people. That's the only way you're going to beat her, right? Or even be competitive. And the fact that she ran off Amazon, which had all those jobs, 20,000 jobs with an average pay of $150,000 in New York. Those are good jobs for New Yorkers in your district, and she single-handedly ran them off. When you mention that to people, what is their reaction, Ruth?
They are ticked off. It's not just the tech jobs. It had wider ramifications than that. First of all, they were construction jobs, and construction is pretty big in this district. Also, just the ancillary jobs that would have been created. You know, you have 25,000 new workers coming into an area. They're going to want to go someplace after work to grab a drink, or they need to go someplace to get a sandwich, or maybe they want to drop off their dry cleaning before going to work. All these little businesses, a whole ecosystem would have sprung up to support these new workers, and all that is gone.
I mean, so when you talk to people, and I'm sure you bring that up, right? AOC ran off 20,000 jobs, good-paying jobs that were coming to the district. She ran them off. What do people say to you when they look you in the eye?
They say she's got to go. They say she's not experienced enough for the job, and she doesn't even have life experience. Mm-hmm. And they're tired of the inflammatory rhetoric. She's a bomb thrower, and they don't like that. This is a district of moderate, middle-class swing voters. They want a problem solver in Congress. They want results, not rhetoric. And I have to tell you, I have talked to some immigrants from countries that are riven by sectarian or other kinds of civil strife. And they came here to escape all that. And they're wondering why she is so divisive. Why is her Twitter feed replete with identity and grievance politics? Why is she trying to divide a diverse community that has lived together in peace for decades? Why is she trying to divide people against one another? We don't understand it.
Ruth, let me ask you something else. In talking to people in the district, and by the way, we're with Ruth Papazian, and Ruth is running against AOC. She's a Republican. That's the 14th district in New York. AOC, that's part of Bronx, part of Queens. That's where Amazon would have been 20,000 jobs, 150,000 average wage. It would have increased wages in the area dramatically, and it also would have brought in suppliers. I mean, it's probably 50,000 jobs when it's said and done. Probably about the stupidest thing that anybody's ever heard of. And Ruth is a daughter of Egyptian immigrants, and you're running on a platform of creating jobs. One of the things that you said is beyond Amazon's 25,000 jobs, you said that AOC has chose ideology over paychecks. That's been one of your things. But in talking to people, Ruth, do you think AOC is an anti-Semite?
She has made anti-Semitic statements. I can't say what's in her heart, but I know her rhetoric is anti-Semitic.
So her rhetoric is anti-Semitic. When you talk to Jews in the district, do they back her, or are they souring on her?
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends how far to the left they are,
right.
Because some of them would agree with that ideology. But for the most part, the voters in this district are pro-Israel, whether they're Jewish or not. They are patriots, and this includes Crowley's voters, Crowley's base. I mean, pro-Israel patriots and moderates.
Ruth Papazian, you're a lifelong Bronx resident. You're a medical journalist, but you're a Republican, and you said that district Dem plus 29. So how long have you been a Republican, and have you thought about a way to not make that a negative going into this election, so it's between Ruth Papazian and AOC, not Republican versus Dem? How do you do that?
Well, first, I have not been a Republican my whole life. I was a Democrat, and I have voted for Democrats in the past. It was after the Berlin Wall came down that I realized that Republicans are about solutions, and too many Democratic politicians are just about keeping issues alive so that they could keep running against them and fundraising against them.
Right.
So that's where I had my big political epiphany, and I changed parties. But just like the rest of my district, I am politically moderate. I am not an extremist. I am bipartisan. As I said, I have voted for Democrats in the past, and there are moderate Democrats who are representing this district right now, like Elliot Engel, who has been targeted by AOC and the Justice Democrats to be primaried from the left. He has been the representative in this area for a long time, and people were happy with him. But see, this is what's going on over here. So basically, I'm running to take my district back from the Justice Democrats and to restore representation in Congress that focuses on results, not rhetoric. The outer boroughs of New York are being targeted for takeover by the far-left Justice Democrats, one race at a time. Mm-hmm. Now, you'll recall that the Justice Democrats was the group that auditioned AOC as a potential candidate and then trained her like a seal at SeaWorld to spout social justice talking points. Right. Now, the Justice Democrats also got Brooklyn's Julia Salazar and the Bronx's Alessandra Biaggi elected to the New York State Senate in 2018, and just the other day, Tiffany Caban elected Queens DA. This is a systematic assault on moderate, middle-class, outer boroughs residents, and they will soon have no representation at any level of government, whether City Hall, the state legislature, or Congress. I want to defeat AOC to give other outer boroughs voters a playbook on how to take back their communities. This takeover of the outer boroughs is being replicated all over the U.S., And if we join together as a nation to stop it in my congressional district by defeating AOC, we can beat back socialism everywhere it's on the march.
I love what you're doing, and you're really trying to disrupt the status quo in the 14th district in New York. Ruth, tell us, if people want to get more information, where do they go?
Well, if people want to follow my campaign, they can follow me, Ruth for Congress, on Facebook, and Papazian 2020 on Twitter. And by the way, you will love my Twitter feed. I take it right to her every day. In case anybody thinks I'm going to be another shrinking violet Republican. No, I'm a Bronxite. So, and then, of course, I would love to have people signing up to volunteer and donate, and that would be at ruthforcongress.com. Basically, money is pouring into AOC's campaign war chest from Hollywood and Silicon Valley. And several GOP strategists told me that they expect this to be a $2 million to $5 million race, and that I can expect to raise a substantial amount of grassroots money nationwide because she is unpopular with moderate voters, and because patriots are realizing that the stakes for our nation go well beyond the borders of my congressional district. So let's all join together, and this is ground zero in the war on socialism, and let's beat it back here in this district and show everybody else that it can be beaten back in their districts as well. So I, again, invite everybody to go to ruthforcongress.com and donate and volunteer if they live in the area.
Great job, Ruth. Also, one of my associates, Chris Saxman, says I have data polling team who can help her, give her my contact info. Ruth, stay on the phone and give Kara your email and your mobile so we can get in touch with you and I can provide you with that. And thanks for being with us on the John Fredericks Radio Network live in Miami today on the Disruptors segment. Ruth, great luck.